I've been talking about mythology this month, and while mythology is obviously a topic that dates back to the ancient world, it actually has a pretty strong influence on our modern day culture. For example, we use the word Trojan to refer to a type of computer virus that mimics the behavior of the Trojan horse, and we often refer to people's greatest weakness as their Achilles heel. Greek and Roman mythology also have a huge impact on the fictional stories that we tell, even if those stories aren't direct retellings of myths. For example, a lot of the fantastical creatures that typically appear in fantasy works are inspired by Greek and Roman mythology. So in this video, I want to talk about the origins of some of the so-called fantastic beasts of the Harry Potter world and how they originate from ancient Greece and Rome. A lot of the mythical creatures in Greek and Roman mythology were either part human and part animal, or a mixture between multiple kinds of animals. And not in ways that you would see in real life, like a liger being a hybrid of a lion and a tiger, or like horse, donkey, and mule. No, in classical mythology, the animals would actually be like the back half of one and the front half of another, and stuff like that. There are 4 part human creatures in the Harry Potter books that originate from ancient Greek or Roman mythology, but really there are 3, and then one that is very confusing and not accurate. To start off with, the easy one is centaurs. Centaurs originate from ancient Greek mythology and appear frequently in the Harry Potter books. The second is the Sphinx, which is described as having the head of a human being, the body of a lion, and the wings of a bird. Now, the Sphinx can be traced back both to ancient Greek and ancient Egyptian mythology, and they kind of take on a different form in the two. For example, the ancient Egyptian one doesn't have the wings, and it's the ancient Greek one that's known for speaking in riddles and challenging people to riddles in order to let them pass. So in that way, the Sphinx that appears in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the book version, has much more in common with the ancient Greek Sphinx than with the ancient Egyptian Sphinx. The Manticore is another one. I don't remember it ever appearing in the Harry Potter book series or in the original 8 movies. However, I do think that the creature in Crimes of Grindelwald, the one with the scorpion tail, is meant to be a manticore. I could be wrong about that, but I think it was meant to be a manticore. It also appears in the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and unlike the Sphinx, despite having the head of a human being, the Manticore doesn't appear to be very intelligent, at least the way that it's portrayed in the Harry Potter books. And then finally, merpeople, and here's where we get to what I said was not actually a correlation, but just a misunderstanding. The oldest recorded merpeople were known as sirens, Greece, and it is in warmer waters that we find the beautiful mermaids so frequently depicted in Muggle literature and painting. The Selkies of Scotland and the Merrows of Ireland are less beautiful, but they share that love of music which is common to all merpeople. Now, the issue that I have with this is that, as I discussed in a previous video, which I will link right up here, merpeople and sirens are 2 completely different concepts that we have gotten somehow entangled together, but that actually have very different origins. The sirens in ancient Greek mythology were actually part bird and part human, not part fish. By the way, Selkies also are not merpeople. They're shapeshifters. They can turn into seals in the ocean and also walk on land as human beings. So in reality, the merpeople that feature in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire have absolutely nothing to do with sirens from Greek mythology, other than, of course, the fact that they sing. The hippocampus is another aquatic creature that doesn't actually appear in the books or the movies, but is mentioned in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And by that, I mean this book, not the movie series. In any case, the hippocampus is a creature from ancient Greek mythology that has the front half of a horse and the back half of a fish. So basically a horse mermaid, sort of. In some illustrations, it actually looks quite a bit like a seahorse, which is probably where we get the name of the animal from. There are actually quite a few hybrid creatures, both in Greek mythology and in the Harry Potter series, that are part horse. The one that you probably remember the most from Harry Potter is the hippogriff, which actually doesn't come from ancient Greek or Roman mythology. It originated much later. However, it was inspired by a creature from classical mythology, the griffin. The griffin is part lion and part eagle, and traditionally hippogriffs are not their own species, they're a hybrid of a griffin and a horse. So the hippogriff is part eagle and part horse. The griffin is not strictly a creature from ancient Greek and Roman mythology. It actually predates ancient Greece by quite a bit, and is seen in different cultures throughout the ancient world. And then as far as horses go, you might also remember the winged horses that pull the Beauxbatons carriage in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. According to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, winged horses actually come in many different varieties, and those are just one of them. However, the only other type that we see in the actual books or movies, not just referenced in Fantastic Beasts, are thestrals, which are an entirely different thing. As compared to thestrals, the horses that pull the Beauxbatons carriage seem to be much more closely inspired by the myth of Pegasus, and are depicted in a very similar way to how Pegasus is usually depicted. In ancient Greek mythology, Pegasus was a mythical winged horse that the hero Bellerophon rode on when he fought the Chimera. And of course, that brings us to the Chimera. The Chimera doesn't actually make any on-screen appearances in the Harry Potter books or movies, but at one point the trio are concerned that Hagrid might be keeping a Chimera in the Forbidden Forest. The Chimera comes from the same myth as Pegasus, and it was the monster that the hero was fighting while he was riding Pegasus. The Chimera had the front half of a lion, the body of a goat, and the tail of a snake, and it had the heads of all three. So, there was a second head of a goat sticking up in the middle of its back, and then the snake tail ended not in the snake's tail, but in the snake's head. In addition to the hybrid creatures, there are a few others that are just one fictional animal rather than, a hodgepodge of real ones with magical qualities attached to them. One of these was the salamander. Now, salamanders, of course, are a very real animal. However, in ancient mythology, they were often attributed magical properties, especially ones that related to fire. So the salamanders in Harry Potter, which are fire-dwelling lizards that can't survive for long outside of the fire, those are clearly more inspired by the ancient myths about salamanders than the real amphibians, which are not fire-related at all. Another is the phoenix, which dates back to ancient Greece and Egypt, and much like the bird in Harry Potter, was supposed to be very long-lived and would burst into flames at the time of its death and then be reborn from the ashes. And then there's the augury, which, according to Newt Scamander, is sometimes known as the Irish phoenix. However, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual phoenix legend. And the augury itself, the fictional bird, doesn't actually have anything to do with mythology either. However, the name augury is clearly a reference to the augurs in ancient Rome, who were priests whose job it was to interpret signs and attempt to predict the future. In Newt Scamander's description of the augury, he says this: "The augury has a distinctive low and throbbing cry which was once believed to foretell death. Wizards avoided augury nests for fear of hearing that heart-rending sound, and more than one wizard is believed to have suffered a heart attack on passing a thicket and hearing an unseen augury wail. Patient research eventually revealed, however, that the augury merely sings at the approach of rain. The augury has since enjoyed a vogue as a home weather forecaster, though many find its almost continual moaning during the winter months to be difficult to bear." So much like its namesakes from ancient Rome, the bird is associated with telling the future. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe. I post new videos every Monday and Thursday.